Warm welcome to the second episode of the DualLens. DualLens is a distinctive podcast format under the Monday Morning Learning Podcast umbrella. Each episode brings together two accomplished professionals from complementary or contrasting backgrounds to explore a single theme from different lenses, be it industry, function, experience, or philosophy. Now, in this special episode, we have Pankaj Rai and Syed Atif Umar. Very warm welcome, Pankaj.
Good to be here, Ravi.
And a warm welcome to you, Atif, as well.
Thanks, Ravi.
Great. Now, quick introduction of both of you, but before that, any welcome words which help me?
Ravi, you said Monday morning running podcast. Atif and I were both thinking that, we do run on Monday morning. So
I said running podcast, and because of it became running podcast, I guess.
You can see his medals behind. Of course, he's much more accomplished there.
So, Pankaj is the Chief Data Analytics Officer at Aditya Birla Group, and Atif is the Chief Data Analytics Officer for Nykaa. Let's start off with the themes. There are 5 themes today, Atif and Pankaj. We're going to start off from data to decisions, the evolution of analytics leadership, scaling analytics in legacy vis-a-vis startup environments, democratizing data, culture, tools, and talent, and mentoring the builders, shaping the next generation of data leaders. And the last segment is where you can ask 2 questions to each other. Great. Okay. So the first theme on from data to decisions, the evolution of analytics leadership. The lens we are looking at is translating analytics into measurable outcomes across e-commerce and banking. So the first question to you, Atif, is how analytics leaders evolved from enablers to strategic partners.
Okay, thanks. See, the way I look at it is, if you define what analytics does, analytics and data science does in any firm, there are 4 things that they do. They are providers of data. They are, the governance mechanism of all measurement systems. And the third piece is they explain stuff, anything that has happened. So they explain the past. And the last and most critical one is they help the organization imagine a different future. If you see, when we started working, at least, and Pankaj is way more senior, so he could relate to that. A lot of the analytic systems, whether it is traditional companies or GCCs, were set up on the first 2 pillars. We were very good at automating systems, providing insights, providing data to people, cuts and things like that. That was an enabling function. We neither got sort of enough influence nor enough criticality. And then over a period of time, we started becoming more explaining stuff. So because of that, we became more critical for the company, but we were still, so we were helping. Everybody had a question. Okay, this month the numbers did not meet. Suddenly there is a conversion drop, and we were very good at explaining, okay, the conversion has dropped because of XYZ things. The sales has not met because of ABC. And we stopped at that, which means we explained the phenomena and we gave off reasons from correlation to causation and others, which made us very, very valuable. But we were still counselors. And the last part, which is where you stop from answering questions or explaining things, and they say that, okay, I know this company as well as anybody else, and there are certain things which nobody is looking at, and try to imagine a very different future. Things which are like some of the problems people are not even seeing. There are opportunities, there are stuff, and that is where, and I'll give you some examples in my recent examples as well as past examples. A very recent example is, if you see for us, a lot of consumers at Nykaa, and of course for a lot of other platforms, they come in for the first time. And when they come in for the first time, they log in, we don't know anything about them. which means the experience that we give them is undifferentiated. However, if you see, if you log in, Ravikant, Jagar, Lapudi, Atif, and Pankaj, a simple model, AI model, can tell us we are all males with a very, very high accuracy. It will also tell that Pankaj is probably a North Indian, whereas Ravi is most likely a South Indian, irrespective of where we log in. And this also will be very, very accurate. It's a very simple this. The third interesting thing that it can do is it also can profile names and explain to you that probably all three of us are Gen X, because people in Gen Z are not named Atif, Pankaj, and Ravi. They're more named as, and these are all very logical. And based on this, I can just change the experience in a very simple. These are simple examples. Now, this business was never even thinking, but you have provided a simple but very powerful outcome to the people who did this. So this is one example. Another example we did, which was very, very foundational when I was in my Flipkart days, is when there was COVID and there was a lockdown in the entire country. Nobody knew what will happen in 6 months or in 3 months when lockdown opens. And we had reports, consultants were coming. We had reports from China, which was suggesting that there will be 70-80% drop in categories. You have to brace for the best and all. And we were actually looking at data in some other ways. We found that Google searches for products were going off over the roof. For mobiles, for washing machines, for so many things. And based on those searches at a micro market level and our individual searches, we were able to understand that electronics and appliances will boom, home services will boom, fashion will drop. And that is how we helped shape the entire inventory strategy for Flipkart. It worked. And these are situations where what happens is analytics is elevated and now it becomes a thought leader and a part with equal respect at the table. Not just, it does not mean we stop doing what we do. Bulk of our work will continue to be providing measurement, explaining the past, but that's how, and that is where I feel journeys happen over a period of time. Every organization will eventually come to that. We are all data organizations. Some are at different stages. That's the way I look at it. Hope it answers your question.
Absolutely. I think you got the seat at the table, Atif. Thanks so much for that. So Pankaj, from bridging data with values and human-centric decision-making in analytics-driven organizations, that being the lens, what it takes to integrate data thinking into day-to-day business decisions, Pankaj, according to you?
Yeah. And I will pick up from, a few things that Atif mentions. If you just heard him, he said two things about analytics: explaining the past and imagining the future. And I think that's a great place to start, because this applies to any individual, any department, any company, anyone. What has happened, and I don't know whether that's entirely true, but this field, when it came into being, it was seen as some esoteric field with these guys, data science guys, and they're like crazy nerds or whatever. And that happens to any new technology that comes about. People are seen as a very different animal and not necessarily part of the entire family. I think over time, what a lot of us, Atif and all of us, have done is able to connect whatever we do or whatever we bring to the table to business. So that is one thing that we have done. I think the other thing that has happened in the environment is businesses have by nature become digital, right? So I think the digital nature of the business makes it amenable to analytics, because how else will you run Flipkart? How else will you run Nykaa? Now, you could potentially run Ultratech Cement or Hindalco Aluminium without necessarily getting so much into data analytics, because you have OEMs, you have machines, and you have ways to run it. But some of these businesses just didn't have any option but to run on data analytics. So I think the advent of digital businesses and the business leaders over time understanding businesses and being able to communicate it to the business, saying we are you and you are us. We are no different. I think those two trends, I think, have made it really integrated to business. And the point that you make, that how does the humanness in the organization, is how I see it.
Great, Pankaj. Thank you. Moving to scaling analytics in legacy vis-a-vis startup environments, Atif, I think designing and scaling teams across both traditional and startup ecosystem, that being the lens. What, according to you, are the challenges and opportunities in building data functions from scratch?
Yeah. So, and again, I'm making a slightly generic viewpoint, so there will be differences in this also. But most of the legacy companies that I have worked with are process and function led. You have like different functions, and analytics is organized around those functions. uh, you have risk analytics, you have operations analytics, you have marketing analytics. Within marketing you might have certain other things, and then within analytics also you have functionals. You have BI and reporting, you have campaign management, you have modeling, you have model monitoring, and then you have strategic or business analytics, things like, and then data science. That's how a lot of organizations have been. Modern companies or product-led companies, analytics is integrated as part of the product. So you have, like I have teams which are search analytics, recommendations analytics. In essence, they're not doing very different things from each other, or even funnel analytics, or simple transaction analytics things, because these are all products in the company. But they are very, very clued in and forward integrated with the organizations. So that is how the companies are now scaling in traditional companies versus this traditional companies. The scaling, and at least I have worked only in GCCs in the traditional company, so I can speak about that. You had a lot more operational support in terms of doing this. You had great campus programs, and people stayed with the mindset. Like you would see, I still meet a lot of people from my Citibank days and all, and they proudly talk about the batch that they are from, 2002 batch functional trainee, 2009 batch functional trainee, or management trainee. And this is not just in analytics, across the board. And they got disproportionate growth. They have, like, if you see, most of our country CEOs in Citibank were campus hires. Anand Selva was one, Karthik was another one, and things like that. In product companies and consumer tech companies, they're very rare. You have very small, you, because of this, the nature of these pods, you don't have too much time to build functions like analytics and things like that. Though even in Flipkart, if you see, the analytics team was very big, and we did have campus programs. But because the fact is that these are function led, there's not that much horizontal. See, this is the advantage of process and that led, which legacy companies do with. They're building a common culture. Here it is, you're part of a pod of 20. That's it. So everyone is isolated in that way, and so campus programs are not that successful in these companies. Which means we have to hire a lot more laterally. And whenever you hire laterally, culture fit becomes a very, very big challenge. Campus mein, you can say that, okay, these are 80 people, this is our culture. All of them will get integrated. So I feel a lot more challenge in terms of finding the culture fit and adhering to that piece in modern product companies. They're all good. They're very fast paced, but less, which was something which was very good in the companies, traditional companies that I worked with. Yeah. So.
Uh, Moving to you, Pankaj, I think navigating organizational transformation through scalable systems and ethical scaffolding. So governance vis-a-vis speed in analytics maturity, what's your view on that, Pankaj?
Yeah, I think, and again, I have worked largely in the traditional companies and not so much in the modern ones. So what I learned, and that I learned my early days at G, which was a large company, which I think I owe a lot of my learnings to that company. So one of the things was that if you are a large company, you got to have a common language. And that is something which is not very well understood or very well done in many other places. So when I was there, I was leading Six Sigma process improvement, and the common language was DMAKE: define, measure, analyze, improve, control. So whether you were a credit card company, you were aircraft engine, you were power systems, you were anything else, that is what you use. I think the point that Atif made about culture, I mean, some of these languages are also culture creators, because I still remember when I was in G Capital, one of our business leaders came from a business called super abrasives. I had not heard this term before. But the idea there was that, oh, it doesn't matter where you were from. You carry the same culture, you understand the basics, and you will be successful here as well, right? So I think that common language and common culture is what I think is very critical, and what I have seen works in large organizations. So similarly in ABG, where I am right now, and we are trying to drive the AI culture, we have also tried to create our own common language, because this field hasn't created a common language. DMake was a common language across everyone. Every company used it, and you could hire from somewhere else. But AI is moving so fast, and every company is in such a different stage of evolution, that's very difficult to expect that you have a common language. I think the advantage that we had here was we had 15, 20 different companies across diverse functions. So we said we can just invent our language based on our own experiences. So the last 3, 4 years of our own experiences, we said, what do we do? How do we translate whatever we do into a framework or a language which can be used by all of us? And which is what led to, we have something called a 3W framework, and it has 3 layers. It's called ways of thinking, ways of working, and ways of doing. In a sense, what we are saying is it is not just about the technology, which is the ways of doing part, which is largely what DMake used to be, but ways of working, how do you organize yourself, ways of thinking, how do you imagine a future. So that these 3 Ws also have their own sub bullets. So ways of doing actually has data science, data engineering, and data architecture. Ways of working has talent, funding, ecosystem, and adoption. Ways of thinking has strategy, innovation, and AI maturity. So net, we have distilled our work across group companies into this common framework. And the idea of a framework is it is translatable, it is reusable, it accelerates moving from one to the other. So if a new business comes, we are able to quickly show all of those 10 boxes across these 3 Ws and say, this is what we have learned cumulatively in this group company. So like we have a new business called jewelry, we have a new business called paints, and we can tell them this is what we've already learned. Now the three boxes in the ways of doing are pieces of code which you can pick up and run. We say we have a model here, you can with some modification use it. The other 7 boxes are actually pieces of frameworks which are more PowerPoint and examples. Saying, what, in Ultratech, manufacturing to promote innovation, what they have done is they have picked up themes, and they do that. Energy efficiency is a big theme. It has a 100 crore opportunity. They've allocated 5 crores money to spend on experimentation, and they're saying we will not check each project that you do. You can fail in a few, but over 5 crore you should generate 100 crore. That is the general intent, right? Now this is very unusual in a large manufacturing company. No one does it. They say, oh, if Ultratech manufacturing can do it, so can Hindalco, so can Paint, so can anyone else. So this RO, and this is a very simple concept. This is what VC companies do, but large companies don't do. So that approach that was agreed with the CFO, that we will not measure each project, but we'll pick up a strategic theme for the year, and we'll give you money to do experiments with startups on your own and all of that, is a great example on the funding part of the framework within the ways of working. Similarly, on the HR side, the talent side, Hindalco, what they have done, they said, what, we want to create culture at the ground level. So they said that we will do 6 months internship for 10 people in our factories, chosen, the top people chosen from different factories. They are sent to our own team. We are a central analytics team. So they spend 6 months with us. We have lots of training programs, exposure, immersion, all that. Then they go back, and they've done 3, 4 batches. So this is one example someone can pick up. What, you can do these types of immersions also. And similarly, we have things on the startup ecosystem side, that how do you engage with startups, how do you govern them, and all of that. So net, all of these 10 boxes have examples and things that can be reused quickly by others. And that is how you create a common language and culture to scale this thing across companies and across time.
Great insights. Thanks, Anish. I think looking at democratizing data, culture, tools, and talent, Atif, we're looking at standardizing tools and infrastructure while retaining agility. The questions are around how to build data cultures beyond the central team.
So again, I think even before standardizing data tools and infra, we need to standardize data across companies, and more so whenever there are a bunch of businesses being run. Data in itself, metrics in itself are not standardized. Different companies will have different definitions of, if you see, how do you define GMV? Is it gross? Is it after same day cancellation? Is it net? So these things, and different companies. And then again, how do you define conversion? How do you define? I'm sure Pankaj would find a lot more complexity on the similar metrics. So tools come after we have a common definition, because everybody is talking to the group CEOs, the group functions, with a very different point of view. Retention, whether it is 6 months, 12 months, everybody. So we have to first fix that, and that is what I have tried to do across the 4 or 5 companies in Nykaa Group that we work. Same thing in Flipkart. So you have very standard consumers facing definitions. We have proper input and output metrics. Once you have that, then you move to, then it's easier part, because for all of this, if you have standardized this, which means your data extraction and all will also be a lot of ways standardized, then you now come to visualization. Now today, I think in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of progress has come in visualization and automation. If you see the work that Salesforce has done, Microsoft has done, I think in the last five, we don't speak enough about this. We speak a lot about AI models and data science, but I feel a lot more foundational work has happened in business intelligence, dashboarding, visualization. It has become really good. All of these reports, it used to take us so much time to make it iPad or iPhone friendly. Now it is very easy. And that is where executives consume it. They find it very difficult to do that. So that has happened. And we've spent a lot of time, but now you don't need to spend resources to do that. I mean, when I remember when City we did this standardization, one of my colleagues led a 150 member team, Dipali, if you would know Pankaj, to just standardize across this. We are now doing it with just 5, 6 people and having partners. So it's just fundamentally changed. It's so easy, so fast, and so much more economical. The last piece now which is happening and we are now looking is natural language based querying and things like that. So it is still evolving, but what if an executive wants some other cut and all, which we are doing pilots with Gen AI, other tools and all, because we are now living in the world of chat GPTs where we are getting used to such type of answers. So of course it has to come to business also. Why should I look at a static dashboard when I can customize it? And which again, I mean, 3 years back, very difficult. Now it is happening. Maybe in 3 years, it will become as BAU as the colorful visualization dashboards that we see. I don't know whether it's 3 years, but it will happen very soon where I don't need to know data elements. I will just ask, okay, why is it happening? And then we'll keep on getting answers. So that's the next stage of, and then it will become truly democratized data because everybody can do the RCA that we are doing, which is a very niche, this they can explain. So that's the way I imagine it.
Great insight, Aditya. Thank you. So, Pankaj, empowering non-data leaders to make informed decisions. What, according to you, is the role of explainability, storytelling, and trust in democratizing insights?
Yeah. So first of all, what we are telling everyone is that there is no one who's a non-data leader. Everyone should think of themselves as data is a part of our life. Just like, again, going back to my Six Sigma days, we used to say process improvement is everyone's job. Your daily habit, you should improve your daily process, So therefore, many a time just saying that whatever this domain is not very alien or esoteric. It's part of your life. And if the more you make it a part of your life, the better you will be and all of that, right? So therefore, we are trying to make everyone understand this better. And like you rightly said, the best way to make it their own is to have the common story. So everyone, like Atif said, if you are working with them to reimagine the future, so what we do is, as a central team, we do workshops with them. We do some preparation. These days, actually, preparation become very easy with ChatGPT. Let's say I'm doing a workshop with Hindalco downstream business. So we will just upload all annual reports of all aluminum companies across the world, all equity research reports, all kind of stuff, and query them and say what's happening in this industry, what happened last year, 10. You can do so much better preparation today thanks to these tools that you don't have to go there very open to say, oh, okay, what business are we in and what should we do and all of that. You can have very, very pointed hypotheses and questions to drive a very strong discussion to say, how do we imagine the future? I mean, you may still say what business are we in and what should we be in, but you have data back this thing to say what can it be. So I think once we have this workshop where we have a common understanding together of what the future of the business is, that is when we start to let them know that in this whole future, what are the areas where data and AI can make a big difference, right? In that new future, maybe there are many things that are different from today, but some of them are amenable to leveraging data and AI to make a difference. And therefore, you choose some of those areas to say, now let's work together in making this new reality happen. So I think your agreement with the business team is on the future, the outcome, the story, and data is just an enabler. And I think you work with them iteratively. So unlike traditional IT, where it was said, okay, so now this is a project, you are a central team, you take it, we'll review after 3 months or 6 months. That's how it works. It's a very agile way of, some kind of a weekly, daily governance at some level, monthly, quarterly at another level. So I think these are the things they have to be also trained on because they're not used to it. Because in the past, a lot of leaders have looked at technology as some ERP implementation where they will probably give some ideas and some other team will go implement it. and usually when they come back, it won't work. They are very used to that method of working. So we are saying that is not an option. There we are in it together. You are part of it. There are sprints. Things will get launched very quickly. We will quickly correct it and all of that. So I think this new way of thinking, this new way of working, apart from this new way of doing, all the three W's have to come together to make this impact.
Lovely. So the last theme now, mentoring the builders, shaping the next generation of data leaders. So developing high impact talent through practical strategic mentorship. What makes mentoring in the analytics space unique for him?
Okay. And I think Pankaj is a better person to answer this. He mentors like almost 10 times people that I would ever hope to, and he is one of my mentors as well. But I've sort of a framework. I mean, I do talk to people, I do mentor, and I stick to mentoring people within this space because I believe, while I have some view on how leaders grow through organizational, my journey has been a very data and number led. So my experiences might not be very, very relevant for someone in marketing, business, and others. While I have seen them, but I have not lived their life. See, data and analytics folks, they are by design more quantitative. Their roles are sort of specialized, which means they don't get that much rotation, while they have a lot of rotation within the org in analytics, but not much across functions and things. So that's why it is important to have specific mentors in this space rather than general purpose. They do also help, but they will give you very general. I've had mentors who were general purpose. Their support is limited. Now within this, I believe, and I've thought of a framework, I've also written about it, is there are 4 parts to it. The first piece for any leader, whether it is a CXO or say leading a function within the organization, they need to have something which is called point of view or vision. Every team, because otherwise what happens is if you do not have that, invariably you will be led. Which means you will not imagine the future. For imagining the future, as just Pankaj said, when they would have called for that Hindalco meeting and all, they would have expected that they will give us their problems and you will come. But what a leader with a point of view has done it, and with some help, they've uploaded say 100 companies across emerging markets, and they've said, okay, these are the industry trends, this is this, and based on this, maybe these are things you could do. So this is about having a point of view, and a leader always will have across levels. I mean, it does not mean that he needs to be at Pankaj's level. This trait starts emanating from the 7-8 years of experience. You start building point of views. That's the first piece that you have. The second, again, we are technical field, which means we will be expected to solve problems. So which means we need to have very strong problem solving, which is where I think, again, as Pankaj said, we need to think frameworks rather than general. So we have to always start saying whether the framework is an algorithm or not, everything. Okay, if this is there, then what do we do? How do we do? So having a very strong problem solving design mindset is very, very critical. Otherwise, in analytics, you can again tend to become just a general purpose manager who is just managing what others are. So then you become an operational leader. But your strength does not come. You can grow through the ranks in that, but at some point you will never become a CXO because CXO needs to have a strong. That's the second thing. The third piece is about execution. And that again, you can be great at envisioning stuff, you can be great at this, but at the end of the day, if you're not able to tie the knots, which is again where we said we have to build mechanisms of reviews, of cadences, of pods, and today all organizations are agile, trying to be agile. So which means the days of, okay, 3 months, 6 months, we have to be very, very agile. And at the end of the day, every functional leader or any leader has to be very strong in execution. Results are very important. The last piece to me is ambition. You can have all of that, but at some point, and I see that a lot. I'm 45, so I've a lot of my friends are in this age group. Pankaj would have seen a lot of this more. Is at a certain point, what happens is we become comfortable with our lives. We are all good, so we have vision, we have problem solving, so we can do that. But then we start questioning: do we really need to struggle and strive so much to go to the next? Because at every stage, what happens is the the effort that you have to make is almost 2x. So from an analyst to an AVP is a easier journey. AVP to VP becomes director, MD, or whatever, CXO. It becomes, and you cannot do it unless you have ambition. I've seen a lot of people with more caliber and skill but less ambition falling way, and ambition takes it. So that's what I call it, the WAPE model: vision, ambition, PS, and execution. That's the way I look at it. And I try to, in some way or the other, fit this in most people's journeys.
Okay. I loved it, Atif. Thank you so much. So, Pankaj, the last one for you, advocating value-based mentoring and creating space for reflection in leadership. How to mentor beyond career towards character? That's the question.
Yeah, and Atif created so many interesting sort of thought-provoking ideas, and I really like the WAPE model, and I'll I'll utilize it. But let me give you a few reflections from my GE days, because I learned a lot of these leadership lessons over there, and I somehow find that why am I going back to GE? Was it an early career, or the new companies have stopped creating these frameworks? So the two frameworks that I still remember, one was the 4 E's of leadership that Jack Welch. It's a book also. In fact, in many companies, I've gifted that books to people, and it's still sort of very simple to use: energy, energize, edge, and execute. So you got to be energetic. Yourself. You should transfer that energy to others. There are enough people who have energy, but they de-energize others. And then edge, meaning you have something unique to provide, and then execute. So if you think about it, I mean, these are very simple ideas, but very difficult sometimes to find elsewhere. And you can use that as a way to develop people, mentor people, guide them, or even evaluate them if required, right? So that's one. Second one is, as you grow, how do you judge whether you are growing? So another leadership model there used to be three-stage model: leading yourself, leading through others, and leaving a legacy. And leaving a legacy meant that if you came back to that same role 5 years later, you still found something there, that someone was remembering it, someone had improved it, and all of that, versus someone had dismantled the moment you went away, right? So I think, again, this is a good way to think about as you grow in your career, that initially you have to do that, right? So those are the two. The third one, which I have mentioned many a time, that I have always seen Amazon as a Bhagavad Gita of corporate, as I say it, is that the ideas related to modern management, or how we should perform. I think Amazon signifies it, just like I said, the Bhagavad Gita signifies it for personal life. And the points that I say, that if someone were to ask, what does Amazon stand for? The why, how, and what. The why is customer obsession. The how are those 16 leadership principles, and the what is whatever you can make out of it. You want to make a car, you want to make AWS, you want to make a any tool. So I think they are not really caring about the product that they are producing. They are caring about the purpose and the principle or the guideline based on which this produce. After that, whatever gets produced must be right only, right? Now that's a very different way of thinking about yourself or your company or whatever. So I think what this also means is, and the other way is the agile way of working, which is what leads to this, that based on customer feedback, you are adding features or adding products or morphing your company into whatever way the customer wants it to be. And that is what, to me, कर्म करो अपने धर्म के हिसाब से और फल की इच्छा ना करो. To me, that is a good manifestation of that, because your customer is your real feedback provider, or someone who's telling you what is required. And if you're truly listening to them and working on based on that, whatever you evolve to as yourself or as a company is the right thing to do. So there is no waterfallian future that you are aspiring for. You are just basis your own knowledge moving forward. Now what I have started to do now, I keep doing experiments on mentoring. I don't have very specific frameworks. There are two things that I'm using. One is the 3W I'm using in my own company to say, this 3W applies to the company, to the industry, to yourself. So if you're a newbie, you are in the ways of doing area, you have worked on these technologies, but learn the other two. And I say that the base one is science, the other one is commerce, and the other one is arts. And I say become a full stack human being. That should be your ambition. Because if you stay at a full stack developer just playing around in the ways of doing area, you'll get automated and you won't be relevant. But if you add your humanities, which is why are we doing, what is the imagination of the future, what is the commercial aspect of it, is how you are doing, and then what, then the three come together. So net, if you bring all these three together in a product, it is a much better product than a lopsided product that you are right now. So that is one way of making people think that as you grow, keep adding the other layers. It will make you more valuable, it will make your recommendation more relevant, and all of that. The other that I have just started doing is to say, and we hire a lot of freshers, and Asif was talking about freshers, and I'm thinking how to make these new age freshers different from the others. So I tell them that actually you are not a fresher. This name has been given wrongly to you. You have 22 years of experience in life, right? Now let's look at what of those 22 years constitute and what is the reusable component within that can be applied in corporate. So let's see what you can do. So I tell them, think of this large corporate. I mean, at least our large companies are like that. Maybe the startups are slightly different. This is again a joint family. And in your own joint family, you had all kinds of people. You had uncles, aunts, grandparents, all of them. And even when you're a small baby, when you were born, you had two managers, mom and dad. Even before you started to speak, you knew how to manage them. You did something else from mom or something else from dad, and you became older when you started to speak. You could even manage your siblings and your grandparents and all of that. So when you come to the corporate and you see too many stakeholders or sometimes multiple managers or dotted line managers, don't get scared. You have managed many more when you were small. So think about this place as that these are the same human beings that have existed in your life and your family forever, and you have managed them. Just because they are now carrying a title and wearing a suit or a sari, they are no different. So try to see if you can apply some of the knowledge gained in your family circle to these places and be more confident about what change you can make versus imagining that the first 3 to 5 years I am a dummy and a fresher and I can only sort of take instructions and can't take decision on my own. So I think that is the thing that I'm trying now because the world is moving so fast and people are getting so overwhelmed that I think to Atif's point, how do you create culture from the get go? You can't wait. You have to allow them to take their decision and feel positive and contributing from year one. See, earlier we would have 2, 3 years of management, rotation, this, that, and the other. You had time. Citibank, you can grow for 20 years. You don't have time. So that's what I'm trying to do, to see that how individuals at an early age can think of themselves as more confident human beings than what the corporate make them believe by calling them fresher. And two, giving them a framework like a 3W to say, try to add some of these skill sets. And like I said, these 10 muscles. So it's like going to the gym. If you add all of those 10 muscles, that will work. And I give them my own example of marathon running, which Atif will relate to. I said, if I apply the 3W to my marathon running, my way of thinking is that I need to run the Bangalore or the Bombay marathon in, let's say, whatever time frame, right? So there is a ambition, there's a vision, that's my way of thinking. Now, my way of doing would be my running speed and my legs, but my way of working the middle part is my cardio. So only I have the ability to carry on for 42 kilometers can I spend. But what people do is they will just see the what, how many steps did I take, how many kilometers I ran. So in the real world, the what gets measured very well. The why and how is invisible. It is for us to make the why and how visible through frameworks, through mechanisms, because that is what creates the what. And if you relate to the Simon Sinek Golden Circle video, it starts with the why, then the how, and then the what. But unfortunately, since only the what is visible, we tend to copy the what of other people, which we all know doesn't work. You can't copy Amazon's product. You have to get inspired by their products, but determine your own why and how based on your own, strengths and aspirations and so on. So I think these are the ideas. I think a very long, maybe a vague answer, but several different types of mentoring approaches that I'm trying, and they are just my own reflections and making them reflect on what is it that will work for them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Pankaj. So, Atif, your first question to Pankaj.
Okay, great. I think I have asked him this, but this is also as a reminder to me, but also to others. This is one of the things I really like and admire about Pankaj is as you grow, what happens is, as I talked about ambition or competitiveness and collaboration, you need both, but somewhere at senior levels, this balance is very difficult to strive. You compete, you become more you, and sometimes what happens is, because now you have to compete not just for yourself but for a large team, you start becoming a little more ruthless, or a little, and I'm talking of them in a slightly negative connotation, which means collaboration gets hit some ways, because you say, oh, I have to protect myself, my team, this I have seen a lot of us struggle. I have personally struggled. There are times I'm able to balance both, but there are times where you are and whenever you do that, you go back and you don't feel good, even if you win or you lose. I mean, if you compete or sort of trying to get the better of any function in some way, or this when you go back, even if you have got your way and you found some way of pushing back and making your team and yourself in a better position, you still go back and it rankles you. So how have you, but I see Pankaj as somebody everybody likes, so he's do good and be good for him is completely aligned. So I would like to hear from him on how he does that so well.
Yeah, Tiffin, and we have spoken about it, and this has been often asked, and anytime it is asked, like again, reflect and see if there's something I can figure out why it is. Because, things happen, and sometimes we only don't know why it has happened and how to explain our own behavior. So, if I look at my career and, Citibank, Unilever, these were the companies that people from my batch went to, and Atif, you have been in one of them. Now, those companies usually were employees for life also. You could just spend your
Yeah.
entire life in those. So people that went into those, I would say, monoline type of careers, I think were almost forced to compete in the way that Atif explained you had to, because the environment just made you, when you were in a place and everyone was growing or not growing and you were competing, McKinsey or any of these places are like that. I think somewhere I, for various reasons, took a plunge into very different areas. So from being a banker in ICICI, I went into Scope International in a GCC. No one in my batch was doing that. And later on, I happened to work into data analytics in Dell. No one in my batch was doing it. So I think I somewhere left my peers behind. Behind meaning in a different place. So there were no peers. The people that I found around me were from a very different place. It's almost like, the townships are there. People are from very different places, very diverse people. And there is no rivalry because you don't have a shared past to rival for. You rival with people where you probably have a shared past. Oh, and I still hear people saying, "Oh, this fellow used to be behind in my class, and now he's become my boss. How is that possible?" So those kinds of things never happened to me, and somehow maybe that allowed me to not worry about that, Atif, and think about the goal not in personal terms but in organizational terms. Because somehow I always felt that the ambition can be personal or it can be about the organization. And I don't know, maybe. And they have people have told me that you're not very ambitious, and maybe I'm not very ambitious for my own self, but I'm reasonably ambitious about the place that I'm in. So if I'm in Aditya Birla Group, I want to leave a legacy of a culture that people should remember for 20 years. That's how I would think, right? And any other place, for example, like that. So therefore, if I'm in a running group, I would love to have this group be known forever or whatever, right? So I do have collective ambitions, not personal ambition. Now, why it has been like that, I have no idea. But I would say that all of us, when we were growing up, were told the same thing that I'm saying, that be good, don't be selfish, think about the community. I don't think any person growing up anywhere in the world was told
Mhm.
anything different. So if I were to actually sometimes turn the question over to all others to say, by the way, I'm doing exactly what your parents and grandparents told you. Why am I being made answerable to this? I'm just doing what they told me. You should be telling me why you're not doing it. And I say that to a few people when they ask me this. I said I just stayed there for some reasons of luck. I think you can do that as well. So I don't know whether that's a good answer, Atif. But in fact, maybe if you have other ideas on explaining this behavior, please tell me, because many times it's hard to judge yourself. Other people are able to tell you more about you than you yourself can. So I sometimes think that any personal questions are better sought answers from others rather than you yourself guessing it.
I think your point on this whole group or team ambition is very, very, and who you consider to be in your team. If we consider both the function the same team, then we will never have this. So very, very powerful. You said it simply, but I think that's something that I will take away with, which is focus on, be ambitious, but focus on team ambitions and group ambitions rather than yours. Because if the team does well, you automatically will do well. I mean, there is no way. So thank you for that. Yeah. Very, very helpful.
Now I can ask a question, Ravi.
Yeah.
So, Atif, in our industry, you have seen, and not just analytics, I think just the tech industry, the large companies, Infosys, TCS, Accenture, Deloitte, and any other large GCC. I think in our country, we have paid a premium for large teams. And rightly so, we were a small industry and we were growing. So I think over the last 20 years, people have measured their success based on the number of people they have managed. So that's number one, scale. Number two, I think aligned with that. So therefore, when you became senior, if you were in a company like again TCS or Deloitte, your job was to just bring revenue, be with the customer, ideally be in the US, or if you're driving delivery, you were managing 1,000 member team and all of that, right? So I think what this has done is it has led to a lot of people becoming quote unquote managers and not shaping the thinking of the discipline or bringing things like that. So in that context, where the larger ecosystem is of that nature, how have you, one, kept yourself focused on, not worried about the size. In fact, you should go against the size of the team concept and say we should have small teams. And then had people also work with you, because people would generally say, why do I want to work in a small team? How many people report into me? So, one, how have you made that choice to be that? And then how have you found other people to become that? Because many a time people don't come to you because they say, oh, unless I have a 100-member team, why would I join you? I'm managing 200 people here, all of that. So just that talent question in our country that you and I have seen.
Yeah, so I think a very important point, and I have constantly fought this at some point in City about 8 9 years back when I became an SVP there. I had about 120 140 odd people reporting into me, and I really felt, see, if you have that many people reporting into you in your span, you have to meet them with some frequency, which means you cannot just say either you become a non-approachable leader, or if you are an approachable leader, even if you meet every one of them quarterly, it is just a very human. And then you have to take notes. You can't meet them superficially because the next time they will figure out that you don't remember anything. So you have to take notes, and it's a very time consuming activity. And I felt that, okay, I do an okay job of that, but that is not what really makes me wake up from bed to do. I loved the problem solving and framework building of this, and that's where so if you see in the last 9 years my team sizes have come down from their 140 odd people to Flipkart, which is much, eventually by the time I left, it was about 90 odd people. In Nykaa it's just 70 75 80, and I have started ensuring that i will I will have a certain amount of time for people, but half of my day will still be what I love doing best and where I have, which is thinking about problem solving. It does not mean I have a view of everything that my team does in that depth, but there will be, say, 20 30% of the work which I will choose, and there I will work as a team member. Which is non-hierarchical. We will be there in the brainstorming sessions, ideation, things like that. The rest, I will play my role, which is more a reviewer. Because a lot of times when people come to us, when they've already say they might be ready to present to the CPTO, and then 2 days before that they want my review and all. Even if I have great ideas, I feel bad in expressing them because I know what it will make them. They will feel underconfident. They will also feel underprepared. So, but then if I don't share, then I'm not doing my job. So that's the reason why I start saying that there will be certain projects where I will trust my team, and then there will be some I will choose to be part of. I think in today's world, and as you say, I feel the way Gen AI is coming in, we will have very small but highly specialized analysts. You don't need 300 people in any company for analytics. You don't need 3,000 people. It will come down massively, which means the skills that will be there is what models cannot do. I mean, if you see in banks, a huge part of analytics is risk, and they're building models, they're validating models. That is highly repeatable task. In someday Gen AI models will do it, and they will do it with the perfection that you want. They will explain all the models, they will give you all the coefficient and all. Why do you need thousands of people for that? And why do you need a manager for that? But you will still need a lot more work, the type of work that you said, which is brainstorming, ideation, thinking what can we do for the aluminum industry, how do we really crack it, how do we, and that is where analytics has to move. So it will be leaner but more functional. And
But
I have
how
more.
but how have you managed other people? Because you are what you are, and you like smaller teams. And I would argue that maybe you are a bit unique in this industry. So how did you find other such unique people, or how did you convert other scale-oriented people into coming to your team and excited about it and so forth?
See, one of the pieces is I have very clear discussions during all interviews that the roles that the type of people, you can have as much diverse personality as you can. I mean, I've worked, and some of the people that they've worked with me in my teams. They're very diverse. They're not at all like me. But one of the things is I want people to be functional. If anybody just wants to manage teams, then probably it will be difficult working with me because I am not like that. So, and that's a fundamental piece where I cannot. That's not optional for me. So I have generally, and some of the times what has happened is I have actually taken bets on junior people. So what happens is maybe somebody who's already managed this, I will take one level down. I will bet on their hunger and their problem solving ability and give them a smaller team of 10, 15 people instead of having somebody who's managed 50 people and do that. Most of the times this has worked. It has initially it is hard because it makes a lot more. They are not executive ready. But yeah, that's the fun of building teams. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, it is a problem. People, once you manage the span, it's very difficult for people to come down. They always start with, I manage a team of X. I don't care.
But is that changing in the industry the way you see it?
Is
Because
changing.
that's the only way we can, as a country, sort of progress.
In consumer tech, in all consumer tech industries, it's changing. Even if you see in Citibank and other banks and all, you're having more deeper senior roles which are more functional. Like when I was an SVP in Flip City, it meant a team of minimum 70, 80. Today you have individual contributors who are at that level, who are just managing strategic business and functional roles, things like that. So there is a lot more happening. There's still that role there, but now at least you have choice. And I'm not saying that is wrong. I mean, for all purposes, you need operational leaders, but you should have a choice.
Thank you.
Any last question, Atif, to Pankaj? Just a couple of...
we just out of time, I think.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Atif and Pankaj. I think lovely discussion. I think 4 themes we touched upon in this particular podcast. From data to decisions, scaling analytics in legacy vis-a-vis startup environments, democratizing data, culture, tools, and talent, and mentoring the builders. Such. Thanks so much for the great insights. I think this is going to be one of the most popular episodes going forward. We'll meet again. Atif, I'm going to call you again for an exclusive podcast, depending on your time. And Pankaj, thanks a lot for coming again. Thanks so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ravi. Thanks, Pankaj. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.